Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, finally, we are going back to Donkey Kong 64. It is the week of Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong Bonanza is out at the end of this week. I cannot wait for this one. After I played it at the Switch 2 event, I was obsessed. Knowing this is from the Mario Odyssey team has skyrocketed my hype. I know a lot of people are like, well, where's my 3D Mario? You've gotten a million of them. Let DK have his moment. I say that because I love Donkey Kong 64. This was the Donkey Kong that raised me. When I think Donkey Kong, that's what I imagine. And I also never really grabbed on fully to what Rare was doing with Donkey Kong Country. They're not awful games, but if you're a Summon Sign listener over on Last Day Media, you've heard myself and Brad Ellis debate time in, time out, 2D Donkey Kong versus 3D Donkey Kong. Well, today I finally had the opportunity to go hands-on with DK64 in my adulthood. I haven't done this in a while. I was able to fire up some really old saves on my cartridge. This thing was freezing like a madman, by the way. How is this not on Switch Online? I was so surprised to learn that, especially with like building up to Donkey Kong Bonanza. Why isn't DK64 available on Switch Online? I'm like flabbergasted by that. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, it's been since just after high school when I first started to buy some retro items. Like, oh, I got my PS2 again, I got my N64 again, get some of my carts from my childhood, some games from my childhood, that sort of thing. DK64 was one of my first pickups. I'll always remember that lovely yellow cartridge. So how has it aged? And yes, you read the title. Is it really that bad? You see, Donkey Kong 64 has been the recipient of a lot of criticism late in its life. You know, it's just an old man kicking around a cart right now. Be nice to DK64, or should you? We're going to talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new here and you're into nostalgic and retrospective content, consider subscribing. Okay, so to me, this is one of the most iconic soundscapes in a video game ever. I mean, when I was playing this game, it brought back so many memories. Like, I love this game because of how atmospheric it is too, but it is just all these random quips and sound effects like Lanky Kong clapping and the like that sound. Like, when I heard it, I went, oh my god, I used to imitate this all the time as a kid. But it's the music in this game. The music in this game, it's perfect. Like, it really, truly is perfect from top to bottom. Every bit of sound, like when you're in Cranky Kong's lab, when you're talking to Snide, like even the little sound effects, like Snide kind of like just doing a little, like sniffing a little bit, like you even hear that sound effects. I'm just like, oh my god, this game just has so many weird sounds going on. Or when I'm trying to leave behind K Lumsy, and you just hear him like, like. I'm sorry, I have to not gush about the 3D platforming, not gush about the multiple Kongs, not gush about the world. It's literally the sound and the music. I played this game so much as a kid, and I know I cannot, with a soundtrack and sound effects this iconic, I know I cannot be the only one who remembers this game strictly for its sounds. Like, I even hear Donkey Kong Bonanza in Donkey Kong 64. Like, I just don't know how to describe it. Like, this is a forever soundtrack and sound effects track, I guess. It's just unbelievably good. It's so perfectly in sync with what Donkey Kong is, in my opinion. That aside, though, the game is still, I think, magnificent. I love this game so much because I know this is not a term you use to describe really any Nintendo IP outside of maybe Luigi's Mansion, but this game's weirdly atmospheric. I'm sorry, I don't care if this is, oh, Maddie with his weird take. This game has atmosphere, just that, again, you go back to the soundtrack, you hear the bum, 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 as you're kind of march around Donkey Kong Island and just like looking for collectibles, and it's kind of ominous, but it's also just like kind of exciting to be here. Or like when you enter a cave or a place with low lighting and you hear dun 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 dun. I guess I really haven't moved on from the music here yet, but I just love playing this game and exploring this world because it is really atmospheric. I mean, the amount of times, again, I played this as a kid and replayed it and replayed it. It's one of my most played games. Like, again, there's a reason like these sounds stick with me, and I think that's just the type of gamer I was, because even Knights of the Old Republic, its soundscape, beyond its beautiful soundtrack, I'm just talking about the sound effects, like the barks from NPCs when they die, like all that stuff is tattooed on my brain. DK64 is in that company during like very formative years as a gamer, whereas my little pea brain was still developing. So yeah, I know this is very much a weird Donkey Kong retrospective, but I needed to get my love out there first. Like, I adore this game, just exploring the island and playing as multiple Kongs. I really do like it. Now, let's get into other people's criticism of the game, because that's where, you know, playing as an adult, sometimes you have these moments with these games that you loved growing up, you fired up, and you realize maybe in some parts it was best saved as a memory. Because when you're a kid playing these things, you kind of flip that switch off, or even when you're a teenager, you just kind of flip that switch off and you're just like, yep, this is that thing I love. This is how it's going to be, and it goes exactly as planned. But then your brain develops, and especially if you're like me and you're like a critic, I guess, then your brain is like wired to just like process, you know, the games you're playing, the entertainment you're consuming in a very different way. So the big complaint with Donkey Kong 64 is how it handles collectibles and how many there are. So for example, there's your bananas, there's coins, and they're all color coded. However, there are only certain collectibles that work with certain Kongs. So a great example is I found a room that only Diddy Kong could unlock with his little peanut gun. Okay, simple enough. So you shoot both switches, you go in there, there's a bunch of red bananas, a red balloon, you shoot that. Okay, got everything I need in here, but wait, there's some blue coins, some blue bananas, and there's like a balloon door that I can't open. Okay, so I gotta leave, go back, take Lanky Kong, then come back into this room, then I can get everything else. So a lot of these rooms require 2, 3 sweeps, and the game is huge. I mean, it is to me on that level of when I'm talking scale and depth and just so much content there. It does remind me a bit of Ocarina of Time, which is like, wow, how did this exist on the N64 with like such visual variety too? But that is a lot of what's wrong with this game to a lot of people, is constantly going back, sweeping areas again, regathering collectibles, or just playing at the wrong Kong at the wrong time. Like, okay, I want to pick up a blueprint, but this blueprint is colored specifically for Lanky Kong, and this enemy I killed drops it. Okay, so if I'm running around as DK and I beat someone up, I just can't grab that blueprint. I have to go back, switch to Lanky, find that enemy again who respawns in like 2 seconds, beat him up, take that item drop, then take it to like Snide and turn it in. So yeah, this is the part of the game that is the most flawed nowadays. It is a little bit tough, I'll admit. As much as I love the game, it is a little bit tough where you're trying to efficiently explore the island and you want to get all of these bananas, all of these coins, all of these unlocks, because a lot of your main progression and main item unlocks, such as like what, you know, Cranky Kong will give you, is he like absolutely smack talks you the whole way. He's like, you're such a disappointment, you're so lazy. Like, he just, the way this man talks to you, like, Donkey Kong is gonna have some serious confidence issues in Bonanza, I'm afraid. But you have to get these banana medallions to effectively move forward in the story. And since these banana medallions are so crucial to your overall progression, you have to rotate as often as you possibly can. So there's a lot of level design issues in that, like, you'll progress to a certain point and then you'll have to go back, switch your Kong, then go and re-platform everything you've done before. So there's that issue you bump into. The other issue that I feel I personally bumped into that I don't see a lot of people talking about is just, I call it nowadays like PSP syndrome. I guess technically it should be N64 syndrome, but when I think like single analog stick experiences, I think more of the PSP, and I think it's because the PSP had so many third-person games that it was almost like unreasonable. I was like, just so many games that required camera controls, and it would just use like the left trigger and the right trigger. And so with DK64, like that single analog stick and manipulating the camera with like using, you know, your C pad or holding Z, pressing up, going into first person, and then looking around, like the game has answers for you. But yeah, like camera controls, it really wasn't until I'd say the end of the 360 generation, I feel like a lot of developers were figuring it out. So DK64 is in that weird pocket where it doesn't have camera controls nailed down fully, so what it does is automates some parts of the experience. Like when you're swinging from vine to vine in this game, you just have to press A at the right time. Like, you don't have to have your body kind of oriented in the right direction. You just jump on 1, 2, 3, easily done. That stuff is great to me because, yeah, when camera controls aren't great, you kind of have to make up for it somewhere, and this game does that. But it is a rare game at the end of the day, and so that Collectathon is everything. And if it doesn't feel great to get around, and it also is a bit of a pain to get around and get everything, you know, these games are built around the 100% experience. I get where people are coming from, where they're like, hey, I don't really enjoy this as much as I feel I should. At the same time though, man, like, this game gets its hooks in me and makes me want to collect differently from, say, like Donkey Kong Country. And I think it just comes down to personal preference at that point. Like, I grew up with 3D platformers. I've never really loved 2D platformers. Like, does Mega Man count? Like, would you count that? I mean, it's more of like a side scroller, but I'm saying that has a little bit of platforming with the wall hopping and whatnot, I guess. But yeah, like, as you can tell, like, I don't play these types of 2D platformers like Donkey Kong Country. So for me, when Donkey Kong Bonanza was announced, I'm like, oh my God, like, we're finally getting a new 3D Donkey Kong game. So in spite of its flaws with Collectathon stuff, I still really do love Donkey Kong 64 for all the reasons I listed out. Like, I still really enjoy playing as all the Kongs and them having all of their own kits. I just love the energy of the game. Like, look behind me, there's a rap video for Donkey Kong. Like, this game, I think, did so much for the Donkey Kong brand, if you will, and just made him feel so important. And Rare did such a good job with him that it just is, like, to me, the definitive Donkey Kong experience, even if that is like sacrilege and there are better Collectathon experiences. I still think in a lot of ways it's aged really well in its world and its space, and how many move sets there are and how many ways there are to get around, and each Kong having their own, you know, special move set. What I would say is this: it's like a quality life enhancement away from just wiping away people's criticism of it, to me at least, right? So I think a bit about that switching the Kong experience. If there was like a re-release of this game, a remaster or a remake, I think all you have to do is let people switch Kongs on the fly, and you immediately slash a ton of time out of the game that would be spent trekking back and forth. Again, there's another example that I found in the early goings where there's this room that has like a rock in it. So you have to destroy the rock with one of the Kongs. I'm forgetting which one. You have to come back with Lanky Kong. And it's like, yeah, the back and forth experience is a little tedious. So what if you could just completely cut that out just by switching Kongs on the fly? So I just think that sort of stuff would do so much for the game, because otherwise, like, the platforming solid, if you gave it basic camera controls, which you would expect in a 3D game nowadays, like, that would also be great. So I don't know, looking back on the game, playing it again, I get where some people are coming from, but I just the sound effects, the music, the world, the exploration, also just the freedom to go where you want. Like, this game as a kid did so much for me because, you know, it puts you on rails a little bit in the early going, but like, you can just go for it in any direction you want, kind of tackle any stage you want, roam and wander into any sort of dungeon effectively. The game is just so big, and it does, again, make it tough to track, and you have to banana port a lot, so that could be another thing that I'd see some people having some issues with. But for me, like, the scale and the scope of the game was everything. In a lot of ways, like, this is, when I was a kid, like, this felt like an open world game. It just felt so seismic, you know? So I just really have a lot of love, clearly, for DK64, and I just want to share it here with y'all, because I just noticed in the retrospectives on DK64, like, there's just a lot of, like, anger toward this game, and I get it, because if you are like the 100% purist, like, this game might ruin your day, because it is just that constant swapping and going through that same area over and over. But like, there is a fair question to be asked in the start of all of making this game, even back then. Did everyone need their own type of banana too? Like, Donkey Kong gets the yellow bananas, Diddy gets the red, Lanky gets like the blue. I get it, right? I get the idea that, like, not everyone needed their own set of collectibles, just like one set of collectibles for all the Kongs, and just having all the Kongs have different play styles would have been enough. But yeah, they maybe got a little too carried away. I can agree with that. But to call the game like straight up bad or anything, I don't fully agree with that still. And it's nostalgia talking, but also, like, just looking at it objectively, I'm like, this game does so much for its time and feels so good and looks so good. It's got the King K. Rool in here, you know, like, come on, It does so much. I love this game, man. Everything from its cutscenes to the sound to the music to exploring and 3D platforming. Like, such an important game from my childhood. And you know that's saying something, right? Because I probably should have opened with all of this for those who are new here, but you know, I'm not like a Nintendo traditionalist. I'm not out here like, hey, let's talk Mario and Zelda and Donkey Kong. Like, this might be one of you can count on one hand, traditional Nintendo franchises I've talked about here on this channel. But nonetheless, love me some DK64 still to this day. It's definitely got its flaws. I think with a little bit of a re-release and some quality of life enhancements, this game would go super far with people. But I do see where folks are coming from with their complaints. So I leave it with you now. Do you like Donkey Kong 64? Do you agree with some of the critiques that this game really is that bad? You let me know down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.